piercing wail of the alarm tore through the house, yanking both of them from a deep sleep. California shot up in bed, her heart pounding as she blinked into the darkness. Beside her, Sue was already reaching for the light, her face pale and tense. "The alarm," Sue whispered, her voice trembling with sleep and confusion. I I installed it last week just for peace of mind." She pulled on a robe, glancing back at California. "We should check downstairs." California swung her legs over the side of the bed, pulling on a t-shirt. Together they bolted toward the door, footsteps quick on the carpeted floor as they burst into the hallway. They descended the stairs, the chill of the hardwood seeping through California's bare feet, every creak echoing as they went, the alarm's blaring noise prickling every nerve. When they reached the bottom, California immediately noticed the kitchen door standing wide open, framed by shadows and the soft glow of moonlight filtering in from the yard. The cold night air seeped into the house, carrying with it the faint smell of damp earth and freshly fallen leaves. "What the hell?" she muttered, rubbing her eyes, feeling the jolt of adrenaline pushing away the last remnants of sleep. She moved toward the door, flipping on the kitchen light. Sue stopped beside her, eyes widening as she took in the scene. The refrigerator door was also ajar, the soft hum of the motor and the cold light spilling out across the tile. Containers and half-eaten leftovers were gone. Milk, a loaf of bread, cheese, and a few apples. The counter, however, remained untouched. The small pile of cash Sue had left there still neatly stacked, as if the intruder had taken nothing but the bare essentials. "They only took food?" California murmured, brows knit in confusion. "Who breaks into a house just for food and leaves the money right there?" She shook her head, half laughing in disbelief, her tone darkening. "I mean, if it were me, I'd have taken the cash for sure. Maybe even scoped out anything worth pawning. Food's just weird." Sue crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful as she glanced around the kitchen. "Maybe they're different. Maybe they just needed a meal and didn't want to take more than that." California scoffed, muttering under her breath. "Maybe. But they sure had some nerve coming in here at all. I would have at least locked the door on the way out if I were them." Ignoring California's grumbling, Sue moved methodically through the house, checking the windows in the living room, dining room, and study, all locked tight. The doors were undisturbed, the rooms quiet and untouched. California followed, her own gaze darting around each room, taking in the familiar furniture, pictures on the wall, and the neat stacks of Sue's father's books still resting on shelves, waiting to be packed away. Nothing seemed out of place. When they circled back to the kitchen, Sue shook her head, glancing at the wide-open door. "Everything's locked, except for this, and I know I checked it before bed." "Must have been someone with a key then," California said, crossing her arms and glancing around one more time, her gaze flicking over every corner of the kitchen, half expecting something else to jump out at her. "I don't know. The whole thing's strange. When I was out there, it was never like this." She paused, her expression hardening slightly. "You don't leave anything behind." But whoever it was, they only wanted food. Sue leaned against the counter, the tension slowly leaving her shoulders, though her eyes held a hint of unease. "I'll call someone tomorrow. We can change the locks, maybe get a stronger system in place." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I know it's probably nothing, but I just want to feel safe here." California stepped closer, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Hey," she said gently, her voice laced with confidence. "Don't worry. We're fine. If anyone comes back, I'll handle it." Sue managed a small smile, leaning into California's warmth. "Thank you, Cal. This house, everything about it feels more vulnerable somehow." They stood there for a moment, the silence stretching between them, broken only by the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint night sounds drifting in from outside. California felt Sue's unease settle over her like a shadow, but she pushed it down, brushing it off. She wasn't worried. If anything happened again, she'd handle it. She had a sense for things like this, a strange instinct that told her it was just a one-off, nothing worth losing sleep over. Eventually, they closed the door, checking the lock one more time before making their way back upstairs. California threw a final glance back at the darkened kitchen, the oddity of the scene still tugging at the back of her mind. As she settled back into bed beside Sue, she felt the house creak and shift around them, the familiar sounds of wood settling and pipes groaning, the night slowly falling back into its regular rhythm. But as her eyes drifted closed, one question lingered in her thoughts. Who would come into a home, take only food, and leave without touching anything else? In the quiet of the early morning, with the first light of dawn brushing against the curtains, they lay close, their fingers interwoven, breaths mingling in the stillness of the room. The world outside was hushed, holding its breath as if to give them this moment, as if even the sun hesitated to rise, to disturb the fragile beauty between them. California traced a line along the curve of Sue's cheek, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath her fingertips, the softness that made her heart feel both full and weightless. There were no words between them, just the quiet language of touch, the kind of understanding that didn't need to be spoken. Their eyes met, and in Sue's gaze, California found something she'd never dared hope for, a depth of tenderness that seemed endless, a love that felt like it could weather anything. She felt herself pulled closer, drawn into the warmth and comfort that only Sue could offer. She leaned in, letting her lips brush softly against Sue's, a kiss that spoke of gratitude and longing, of all the unspoken things that had gathered between them. They moved with a delicate rhythm, a gentle, unhurried flow that mirrored the rise and fall of their breaths. It was like the meeting of waves, each touch an ebb and flow, a graceful surrender to the current pulling them closer. California felt herself dissolve in the quiet intensity, her heartbeat steady, her body filled with warmth that settled deep, grounding her even as it lifted her up. Time seemed to fade away, the boundaries between them blurring until all that was left was this feeling, this shared, quiet joy. They were like two pieces of light intertwining, a soft glow that grew brighter with each passing moment, each gentle movement. When they finally rested, limbs entangled, they lay in a peaceful silence, their foreheads pressed together, eyes closed as their breaths fell into sync once more. California could feel the echoes of their closeness still lingering, a warmth that stayed with her, wrapping around her like an embrace that would carry her through anything. In that quiet moment, with the dawn creeping in, she felt whole. She felt loved in a way that didn't need words, in a way that was simply there, steady and unwavering. And as they lay there, she knew she had found something beautiful, something worth holding on to for as long as they could.